Hi everyone. Today what I want to do is I want to show you a real quick tip on how to find metadata about your images. One of the most important things in learning photography is getting used to all the technical details, and if you know how to keep track of those details, then you can start noticing the differences between one image and the next, and see what, for example, what the aperture does. So, for example, what is depth of field? How do you increase it? How do you decrease it? What do those numbers mean? And at the beginning, that's really kind of complicated. But with digital photography, all that information is embedded in your file. So there's a way to go get it, and that's what I'm going to show you today. The first thing that I want to show you is right here in the Finder. So I'm on Mac OS X, and I've got this picture over here, which is a Nikon NEF file. It's a RAW file. And you can see that there's, a couple of thousand images in this folder, and I want to know what was the shutter speed and what was the aperture when I took this picture. So one of the easiest ways is simply to right-click on the picture and go get info. Now, this is something that you can do on Windows as well. So you just, right-click on it and go into the properties. But the idea is that somewhere in the file, it will tell you some of the information that you want to know. So for example, over here, we can see that it was shot with a Nikon D800. The color space is Adobe RGB. The focal length, so my lens was set to 70 millimeters. The f-stop was f2.8, and the exposure time was 1/250th of a second. So that really gives me a very good idea of, exactly how the camera was set when I took the picture. Unfortunately, the Get Info dialog gives you a little bit of information, not a whole lot. So you can go to different applications that will actually extract a lot more of the information. So we're going to take a look at Lightroom and Adobe Bridge. If I switch over to Adobe Bridge over here, you can see that I've got the same NEF file over here in the top right, and I have the TIFF that was made from it at the bottom left. Having selected the NEF file over here and still in Adobe Bridge, I can see that up here next to the Metadata tab, I have f2.8, 1/250th of a second, ISO 320, and a setting of -2. So I was in an airplane when I shot these images, and I was using the Motodrive feature, so I was taking several images per second, and I was bracketing. So I was taking one picture dark, one normal, and one bright, just to make sure that I had the right exposure. So the picture that came out the best was the darkest one. So that's what the -2 means. It's 2 stops underexposed. In Bridge, you can see that the information is a bit more spelled out. So focal length, 70.0 millimeters. That length in 35 millimeter format is still 70 millimeters. I have a full frame camera. If I had a crop sensor camera, the reading would be different. My lens was a Nikon 24-70 f2.8. It was set at, or the maximum aperture of that lens is f2.8. And you've got, the same information here, and you can see that there's a lot more information there. So this is really all you need to know. For example, if you're going to be posting your pictures online, usually, the camera, the lens, the settings of the exposure, that's basically all you need. Now, if we take a look at the same thing in Lightroom, you can see over here that my picture's there, I've got the TIFF, and I've got the NEF file. So when you're in the library module in Lightroom, all the information's in the Metadata tab. And once again, you have the pixel dimensions, the exposure bias, the ISO, the focal length, the lens, and all the other information. So really the metadata is really where you want to go take a look. Now, if you go into Photoshop, and you have the image here, a lot of people don't know that you have access to a lot of the information here as well. It's kind of buried deep inside the file menu, inside File Info. So you have the Basic tab, which in this case really only has my name and, a few of the keywords, but the camera data is what you want to know. So once again, the camera, the serial number, the lens, focal length, exposure, details over here, and the pixel dimensions. So whenever you want to get some sort of technical information, it's right there at your fingertips. You just really need to figure out where to go in what software. So I hope that's really useful for you, and I'll be seeing you soon.